What we're here for is not just about to learn about energy, but is to learn about energy for a purpose, namely to make better policy and investment decisions in a broad sense, whether we're from a company perspective, whether we're talking from a governmental perspective, and even from a personal perspective, whether we're talking about homes, cars, decisions, demand. We heard a few times that demand is one of the big key issues that we need to tackle. So across all these spectra, it's about decision making and not just about knowledge. It's knowledge for decision making. So that's why we chose as day 3, one of the key themes needs to be the economics and policy of energy systems, because these are 2 key areas that we need to bolster for decision making. We're in a spectrum where we're trying to change from previously a more reactive policy system to an investment decision system to a proactive system, in the sense that we're trying to transform our energy system to certain carbon targets, whatever high or low they may be in disagreements we may have about what's feasible. And in the long run, the introduction and the growing introduction of renewables, low carbon energy sources, nuclear, and so on. This is a fundamental feat that was very difficult to do. So we're looking at, normally we apply to events that are going on, or we have depreciation of capital, we need to reinvest in our power plants, but now we need to set targets and transform in certain directions and understand what is desirable and feasible in our future energy system, and anticipate what that means, what actions we need to take in a sequence of long and difficult steps. And that's a bit like what I would call like playing 3D chess. It's not just simple one-dimensional chess. We need to think ahead several moves. So say in chess you think ahead, if you're at the top level or at 10 moves ahead, you have too many interactions to comprehend in a sense, except if you have something called positional experience, that you can immediately grasp what all the possible moves are by experience, because there are too many interactions. And moves have unavoidable consequences. If you lose one of your pieces, you've lost it. One of the key problems with this is that we can't learn to be a chess grandmaster just by ourselves, and we need to understand different positions in the whole energy system debate to be able to funnel down to what we need to do. And there are we're not just 2 players, but we're multiple dimensions of players. So that makes this incredibly much more difficult. And that is also one of the key reasons why we have modeling tools, and we're continuously developing such tools to be able to better guide our decisions, and why we've chosen today. Now, one of the key problems with proactive policy is it's in a sense learning by doing. I just chose one example because it's very sharp in the mind of most people, but it's not really accepted as such. We're not really accepted to make mistakes. We don't say to the minister, sorry, you made a big mistake, but it was a learning by doing, and we're on this trajectory. Might have cost 2 billion, but hey. But these things happen quite a lot. We don't talk about it openly as such, but because nobody wants to know like what part of the budget was misspent and make that publicly. Or at company level, there are also mistakes that are made in investments, and they can be costly. So one example is the biofuel policy, where we're starting in 2003 to think about this problem. But it's only in 2010, 2008, 2010 window that we're really starting to get to grips with, okay, what does that mean in terms of sustainability, in terms of supply, in terms of first, second generation for policy at the EU level. And we're only now coming to terms that we need to have recently the decision that was put forward by the European Commission and now by Parliament, that only half of the 2020 targets can come from first generation biofuels. The rest needs to come from the second and the third generation, starting 2017 because of greenhouse gas savings. Now, one of the key interesting elements here, and one of the key problems, is the time scale. The time scale of decision making is of key importance. So given the scale and urgency of the energy system challenges that we have, how can we speed up policy and investment decision cycles and their learnings? Because we need scalability, and we need to learn quickly from our mistakes. We don't have time to wait every 5 or 10 years to see if the next experiment pays off. And how can that learning at the same time strengthen our knowledge of economic and policy to assess the effects of policy interventions? So today we'll have a range in the morning, a range of more explorations, I would say, of very key, interesting, important topics on the spectrum of economics and policy, ranging from carbon markets and carbon emission pricing and price risk to the energy outlook of demand trends, energy intensity, to thinking about the energy capital costs, so the investments that need to be made before the transition in terms of energy investment into energy system, and looking at the energy intensity in more detail of the economy and how we can do something about the demand side effects, rebound effects, and so on. And then to close off with a panel discussion, an open panel discussion on various facets, which is, okay, what are the gaps? We all have our opinions on what the problems are, what the challenges are, but what are the gaps that we need to address to come to a better understanding of policy and investment decisions in different spheres? And how should that move the agenda forward? In the afternoon, there's an energy modeling workshop. Everybody's free to attend that. This is a closed setting, so we'll have 10 experts in modeling attending that, or 11, including. And the rest of the audience can be seated, so we'll have a setting, and in between there's lunch, but if people want to stay, they can stay, but the lunch will be not served by us, but by a venue of your own choosing. And I'm delighted to give the word now to Professor Michael Jefferson, who has kindly agreed to give this keynote on quite short notice, I must say, because unfortunately Sir David King could not be with us today. He had to attend another conference on sustainable cities, also a very important topic, and he excuses himself with great honesty that he could not be here. But we're very fortunate to have Professor Michael Jefferson, who has a very rich, I must say, truly rich experience, having worked at Shell, Royal Dutch Shell, in various positions with various expertises following from that after his economics graduation and political science. He has been involved at the World Energy Council, one of the most important global, I should say, institutes. I'm not sure if that's well-deserving, but institutes and focus points of academic expertise in energy. Worked at the IPCC, and is today serving as one of the editors at Energy Policy and in professorial positions, writing considerably great deals. And one of his recent works, which I'm going to read after the conference, is Chapter 10 of the Handbook of Energy and Climate Change, written by Roger Fouquet, with the title The Futures of Renewable Energy, or something in that direction. It's not the exact title, but that's what I could grasp yesterday from conversing. Thank you very much, Professor Michael Jefferson.